We're going to do this lovely little character by Character Cube on Instagram. Make sure you go check out Character Cube for more characters like this. If this is your first 3D sculpt ever, make sure you note that in the comments. Let's get started. 3, 2, 1, go. You can go to Character Cube on Instagram and you can screenshot this. I don't want to give out his art. So let's open Nomad Sculpt. Okay, so here we have Nomad Sculpt. We have the grid in the background. This is our sphere. This is our mesh. This is our 3D object. So right now it's a sphere. That's the default. This little button or this little square is very important. You can move it around. You can tap it. You want to, let's have front facing front. That way we know we're looking at the exact front. Okay, perfect. Okay, welcome to 3D. So there's a lot of terms that are very confusing, but just bear with me. I'll try to just show you rather than tell you. Especially, and welcome to all my international people that don't even speak the language. I appreciate all of you as well. And we're all going to get through this. All right, so I can calm down. So here we have some tools up here. And the one you're going to use most is probably this right here. And this is your scene menu. This is the sphere. So this is the sphere that's right here. You can tap the little eye to make it go invisible. And you can tap here and you have some other options. You can change the name, something like that. So yeah, so that's that. If you go to add right next to it, then you can add other primitives. So a primitive is just a simple shape. So for example, if we want to do a torus, which is kind of like a donut or like a ring. So now we have the torus here, but you can see that it's around the donut. So the other very important tool is the gizmo. So if you look over here, you see the gizmo. It might look like this, but either way, the gizmo is basically just your controller. So you can move shapes up and down, left and right. You can scale them. It's kind of hard to see. One thing I should have said before, the reason why mine are orange is because I'm using a Matcap. So if you tap this little sun here, yours probably looks white. You can change it to Matcap. Just tap there, tap here, and I'm just using PNG clay, the default one. The reason why I do this is because using Matcap just gives it this general color where it's always the same. It disregards any light, any environment lights, things like that. So for me, it's just easier to see and easier to sculpt with. It looks more like just a general clay. So once again, that's Matcap. That's why mine is not white. Okay, so I'm going to hit front again. I'm going to get rid of the torus. So you notice that you can tap on each mesh and that mesh is selected. So now I'm going to go here, the torus, and I'm just going to go delete. So now we're back to our sphere. So let's move it up. Let's use this gizmo. We're going to use this little green arrow to move it up. And I want to move it up right over this red line. That's going to be our horizon line. A horizon line is essentially just, you know, level. If you want to level something out, this red line will show you that it's level. Another important thing is there's perspective and then there's orthographic. So if you're looking at something in perspective and it goes really far in the distance, it's going to kind of appear, oh, it's kind of dark, isn't it? It's going to kind of appear to like narrow out. And that's just what happens with perspective. You know what I mean? Like if you hold a camera up to your head, your feet are going to look really small and your head's going to look really big. So that's perspective. So in order to get rid of that, just go to this little camera here and make sure you're in orthographic. There's perspective and there's orthographic. And when I like to sculpt, I like to sculpt in orthographic. So I'm not trying to compensate for perspective distortion. All right. So next, let's just put a little floor, a little platform here. So let's go back to this little thing right here. We have our sphere. Let's add a cylinder. So we have something like this. And let's bring this down. Sometimes you have to resize it so you can see the horizon line because it disappears. I'm not sure why it does that, but it seems to do that with this new update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these green nodes. I'm going to put one right up to that red line. So it's like perfectly matched with the red line. Perfect. And then I'm going to bring this green one up as well. So we'll do something like that. And actually, let's make it a little bigger. So I'm going to tap on this little gizmo. Even though it's grayed out, we can still use it. So I'm going to tap on that. You see the orange ring around it? I'm just going to make it bigger. And then I'm going to move it down so it's in line with the red. Okay, so I'm going to hit Gizmo again, and then I'm going to hit Validate. So anytime you add a primitive, anytime you add one of these shapes, you're going to have these extra tools up here. Because there's certain things that you can do before an object is validated. Don't worry too much about it. I know it can seem really confusing. Essentially, once you validate, then you can use all the regular tools. But there's just some technical things that you can do beforehand if you want to set your shapes up. It's a little more advanced, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you want to add a shape and you just want to play with the shape, you can validate it. But just know that some things before you validate, there's just a few more options. So that's all that is. So anytime you add a shape, you want to validate it. And for an example, so we validated this cylinder. I'm gonna tap 2 fingers to undo. It's just like Procreate. And I think it's 3 fingers to redo. Yeah, 3 fingers to redo and 2 fingers to undo. And again, your undos and all these things are right here. So if you forget that or don't like to use it for some reason, you can always undo down there. So now I undid the cylinder, and I want to tap these 3 little dots, and there's parameter. I'm going to put this to 2. So essentially what this does is it changes the subdivision, which is it changes the polygons that are in this shape, and it just makes it more like a softer cylinder. See, it doesn't have like a hard edge anymore. So that's all it is. I just think it looks better. And now I'll hit validate. So now it's just a regular shape, and we have all of our tools here. All right, so we'll hit front. So we have this. So let's go here. It's always good practice to go to your scene menu. Oops, let me just X this. To go to your scene menu, cylinder. Let's press the 3 dots, name. And let's just change the name to, I use FLR for floor platform. And this is going to be, let's just change this to Blob. You can change it to whatever you want, but this is going to be like the general body. So I'm just going to call it Blob. So now we have the floor. We have the general, our blob here, which is going to be our sphere. And let's import the reference image. So I'm going to use a reference image that I screenshotted from Instagram. So just make sure you can go and check out the actual photo from the artist, and definitely follow the artist too, because I don't want to share like his photo. That just seems weird. So just tap reference image, and then tap here, and then tap import, and then photos. And here is where the reference image is. So I'm going to tap that, add, and then it shows up here. So I'm going to tap a little bit on this negative space just so I can see the menu. So now let's hit transform. Once you hit transform, then you can move it to wherever you need. And I think I'll put it right here in the corner. And just tap on the screen once to go back to sculpting mode. Okay, so I want to get rid of this grid too. We don't need it since we have the floor. So I'm going to tap grid down here. And just in case this looks different than something you might have, these are all shortcuts. So there's a little cog. There's a little cog up here. Wait, which one is it? Oh, it's these 3 lines. These are all the shortcuts. Just so you're aware of what I have down there. Okay, so we're looking good. So this kind of essentially looks like it's kind of cylindrical with a smaller top, but still round. So this shape shouldn't be too difficult to make. So let's go to move. So I just tap my little tools here, and we'll use the Move tool. Make sure that you're on the sphere mesh. Make sure you tap it. Okay, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. And Symmetry, notice the Symmetry, the red line, the red dot goes away and there's a red line in the middle. So that's your Symmetry. So whatever happens here will happen on the other side. You can also change that. This is, you don't have to try not to get too worried about this stuff, because this will take a while and you'll get used to it. And this is a lot of information at once. So I just want to show you. So this is also Symmetry up here. These are the same. So this just controls different symmetrical values. So, you know, if you didn't want to go to the left and right, maybe you wanted to go top and bottom. So if you wanted to do that, then you would go here and you would change it from X to Y. And if we're on the sphere, you would have to put local. Usually it's by default, but I'm not sure why it's not by default. So now I can do this and it's top and bottom. And then of course Z is, you know, front and back kind of thing. So that's basically the Symmetry. That's basically how that works. And if you'll notice a little cheat sheet, if you tap the gizmo, notice the gizmo is 3 colors as well. This is green and this is red. So all of these things sort of correlate, you know, the Symmetry, like all of these correlate in a certain way. So once you just work a lot with it and sort of get used to it and slowly figure them out, it'll get easier. So don't sweat it for now. Okay, so we'll go back to Symmetry, and the whole thing is pretty cylindrical. So let's take X and Z. And also I'm going to go down here in the Symmetry menu to show line. So now that we have both of these lines, you can see that this part is symmetrical and this part is symmetrical. So I'm going to use Move, make sure that Symmetry is on, and then I can pull down, and it pulls down in all these different directions, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just kind of pulling down, and I'm just sort of widening the bottom. And kind of pushing and pulling. And then I'm just turning, because I just want like a, you know, I just want like a straight line. I'll just kind of adjust. It gets a little bit smaller here. So just try to match the reference, basically. And just pushing and pulling. And I continue to turn it just so I can see all the different angles. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. We'll look at it on the top. Looks pretty good. Make it a little bit wider. So I might want to bring this part up a little bit. So sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get exactly the shapes that you want, but you really just have to spend the time and, you know, just work it out so you get what you need. Sometimes it's very time consuming, but that's just the nature of it. So I think this looks pretty good. This is a pretty good shape. You just want something like this. And let's trim the bottom. So we're going to use this floor. Make sure we hit front so we know that we're looking at it directly in the front. And trim. So the trim tool is a very useful tool. It'll just trim off this excess. But we can use these tools here. So we can use rectangle. Okay, so this is just so you can see what mine looks like. So now we're using trim and rectangle, and you'll see I'll just make a rectangle like this. So you can make it as big or as small as you want. But whatever's in the white area is going to trim. So I'm going to trim right below where the top of our floor is. So something like that. Okay, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So now we just have to figure out the eyes and the mouth and the teeth. I think what might be easiest first is to do the eyes. So let's go to our scene, add sphere. So now we have a sphere here, and let's just rename it I1. So then we'll tap our gizmo. We'll move it up. We'll make it smaller. So maybe something like that. And this is going to be I1. So let's go to our scene. And actually, before we do that, let's tap on gizmo and let's validate it. So now I1 is validated. We can use all our tools. So let's go to the three little dots and hit clone. And let's rename the clone I2. All right, so let's just save our progress. So we'll go to the little folder here, save, and I'm just going to name it Blob. You don't have to do this. I'm going to put character cube just to show my respects to the artist. So now we have two of these eyes, and the only reason I did that is because the eyes they're not really symmetrical. So we have to pay attention to that. So I2, I'm going to move over a little bit, tap on I1, move that over a little bit. Okay. So I think that's looking pretty good. So next, let's make the mouth. So for the mouth, let's tap on the body and let's use mask. So the mask, you can scribble on it and you see that there's a black kind of mask. So this protects whatever's black is going to be protected. So if I was to take the tools, whatever's in the black won't be impacted. So that's the mask tool really quickly. So we'll go back to the mask tool. So essentially we just want to make this shape of the mouth. And let's keep the symmetry on. Even though he's turned a little bit, the mouth would probably be symmetrical. So we just want to draw a similar shape that the mouth is in. So it's something like this. Mine is it's a little wide. So you might just have to kind of adjust yours. You can hit unmask, and that just kind of like does the opposite of whatever the tool is. Actually, you know what? I think I might make mine a little bigger, actually. So I think something like that will work. I'm going to do unmask, and I'm just going to make that a little bigger there. I think something like that should work. Oh, but as you can see, the mask went through to the other side. And I think that's because I had this blue symmetry on instead of just the red. So what I need to do is take the symmetry, turn off the blue, and I can just make sure that I hit unmask and just make it really big, and then I can just erase the one on the back side. Okay, so I'm actually going to unmask. Looking at this, these bottom parts are really close together, so I'm just going to kind of adjust them a little bit. Something like that. I'm going to save. Just a good habit of saving often. So next, we'll go to the mask tool. So we'll go up here, the same little icon. And we have these little options here. Let's go to invert. So now that we've inverted, we can take our gizmo, and then we can use this blue arrow to push the mouth in. Eventually it's going to come out the other side, so you don't want to go that far. So we push the mouth in pretty far, And I'm actually going to squeeze it together too. You don't really have to do that. It just makes it more flat in there. Otherwise there's just like a roundness to it. So this little sphere, so that like stretches and pulls. So that's what I did. All I did was just squeeze that in so that this was more flat back there. All right, it's looking good. So let's go ahead and clear this mask. So we'll go back to the mask tool, mask up here, and clear. Okay, so you can sort of see where we're going with this. Okay, so the next thing, oh, you know what we should do though? So let's take layer. Let's take layer and make sure that we're tapped on the body, because there should be some space around the mouth. So I think what I want to do is take layer, sub, and let's just see how this all works for now. I'll put intensity to like 60. So this is what, oh, okay, so the layer is not really going to work, but I have a solution. Let's voxel remesh this piece, the blob piece. So voxel remeshing, it's going to recalculate all of the polygons that make up this piece. So essentially any 3D object is made out of shapes that are smaller than itself inside of it. So there's certain things like subdividing. What that does is that divides all of the pieces to make them smaller. And the smaller you go, the more smooth it will look. You know, it's sort of like a jagged line. Like if the jagged edges are big, you can see them. But as the jagged edges get smaller and smaller and smaller, it starts to appear smooth. So right now, we need to recalculate all of the polygons in this shape, and maybe even add more to them. So let's go here, voxel, remesh, and we can remesh it at like 175. So you'll see what happens. You can kind of see those are the shapes. They get like bigger and smaller. So we'll go to 175 and then we'll hit remesh. Okay. So now when we use layer, it should work as normal. So see, it just carves out a nice, carves out a layer. So we still have symmetry on. So now we just want to make, I just want to make an area around the bottom part of the mouth. Sort of like that, if that makes sense. So that it's like sort of like a lip, so it's not just like it goes straight across. So now let's take smooth. So we take the smooth tool, make it fairly big, and I'm just going to smooth this out in here. You don't have to press too hard. I'm going to smooth all of this out. Even this, like these ugly crevices on the mouth, like they look kind of scraggly. We'll flatten that out. We'll flatten that out later. Okay, cool. All right, so the next thing that we should do is we have to figure out the top part of this mouth. So when you see here, you see here how this mouth comes over and there's this little break there. So in my mind, what that represents is that there's something here, kind of like a lip, but not really. There's sort of a ledge there. That's how that reads to me. Because if this goes over, then that means that it sort of protrudes a little bit. There's a few things that you can do. So we can take clay or something like that. Clay adds clay to the model. You can take clay, you can take another shape, and then you can put it in front and then fuse the two together. Or you can take like move or drag, and you can try to move this out a little bit. So let's try move. That would be probably the easiest. So I'm looking at it at the top view. just so I can maintain that everything is nice and smooth. Using Symmetry helps a lot because you don't have to worry about it not looking symmetrical. Even if something is asymmetrical, I like to work on it symmetrically, which means I want to work on it where everything is perfect. And then later on, I can turn Symmetry off and then I can make it asymmetrical. But for me, in my experience, it's usually easier to work on things when they're symmetrical. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want this, this mouth to be. I think that looks pretty good. I think it looks really good, actually. So one thing I want to do down here, if you noticed also in the drawing, it's a little bit like straight there at the bottom. So I'm going to take drag. Drag is a little bit different than move. They're very similar, but I use drag for more tight and close things. I use move for more big arching things that I want to be kind of smooth. So we'll take drag, and I'm going to drag this down a little bit. Like that. Yeah. And I might use move, for example. In the drawing, it's kind of rounded. Mine kind of goes up and then it's a little bit straighter. So an example to you where I would use move is I would kind of move this and just kind of make it one fluid shape. So move is a little bit easier for having bigger areas kind of be smooth. Drag is better for more tight, in close movements of the mesh. So I'm going to save. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, so now we can see that the eyes kind of pop up from, and they're very close to the front of the face. So let's take our first eye and I'll move it up. Okay, so I wanna actually look at this from this angle. So here's an easy way to do that. So right now, let's go to our little camera and we'll hit add. So this will be our first view. I'll tap this little pencil and hit 1. Okay. So now I'm going to do add another view. So this view, I'm going to turn a little bit this way and also turn a little bit down. So it matches what we're, our reference. I just want to match the reference. So I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go, I shouldn't have already added the view, but since I did, you can just hit this little thing right here and it updates it. So I'm going to rename this 2. So now we have 1 and we have 2. So we can always go back no matter how we, mess with our creation. Okay. So now I can sort of put these eyes kind of in the right position. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and put it down so it's like nice and inside the mesh. So something like that. And now the other eye I'm going to bring up. I probably could just do them with the same eye, but they look different. It's just part of the art of it is they're not really symmetrical, so I'm not going to make them symmetrical. I do want to pull them out. I feel like they are more egg-shaped. So I'm going to pull them out a little bit. The back one is a little bit further back, it seems like. Make it a little bit bigger. I just want to kind of match them a little bit more. And I'll use these green, see this green ring? I'm going to use that to sort of tilt it. You can also tilt them. Actually, it doesn't look like it's tilting the right way. Oh, no, it is. Okay. So I'm going to tilt them a little bit just so like the butt ends are sort of close to each other. I don't know, that feels right to me for some reason. A lot of times you just have to go with what feels right. So let's go to our view number 2 and just see how it's looking. It's looking decent. I might push this eye back a little bit more. Okay. I might take move on this part of the mouth and actually arch it up a little bit. Okay, and I am going to have to, I might make it a little asymmetrical at some point in time, but I don't really have to do that now. So the other thing that I want to do is, you notice the difference. This head kind of comes out and then it goes in a little bit. So that's very important. So that tells me that, firstly, I'm using the move tool. I want to make it a little bit bigger because I want to press this shape in a little bit here. So that's a little bit better. And also what I want to do is maybe take the shape in a little bit. Let's look at our second view. Is maybe even take it in on the side here. Something like that. But I might have been a little bit too close to the mouth. So I might have to just maybe push in like, kind of like here. So let's take a look at 2 and see if that, okay, that kind of did it. So it kind of brought it in a little bit. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to push these back. I want to push these creases of the mouth back a little bit. Okay. And I still want to straighten this out because this is very straight. So let me go to 2. Okay, so I might have to pull this whole piece back. Straighten that out a little bit. Let's go to 2 again. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. The only thing that I'm noticing is that there's a little, I'm sort of missing some space on the bottom, but we can work that out later. So I think this is looking pretty good. I'm also going to use move to bring up the top of the head. I just want there to be more of a curve in the back. Whoops. If that makes sense. So something like that. I think that's good. So I'm going to save. And then I'm going to voxel remesh this blob shape again. And I'm just going to smooth it out. So I'm just taking my smooth tool and I'm just smoothing everything out. And the reason why I do this is just to kind of make it a little more uniform, a little more clean. Very gently though, because sometimes if you use smooth too hard, it can sort of move your clay around too much. But I think that's pretty good. I kind of want to bring this out a little bit. I want it to look a little bit more round. Okay, that's better. That's a better profile. Okay, good. Rocking and rolling. So I want to take flatten. Flatten tool is one of my favorite tools. And I want to flatten out this line basically. So we're still in symmetry, so it still should be perfectly fine. Here are my flatten tool options. You might have to make them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So I'm just kind of sliding this along. Get that nice and flat, and I'm also going to bring it above that bottom part, like so. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And here's another cool tool that you can use. We'll go to pinch, and you can actually pinch the crease, like the natural edge. And pinch will kind of give you more of a nice sharp edge, make it look really, really good. Ooh, the only problem with that is it seems to have brought this up a little bit. But I need to take care of this situation. I need a little more space there. So here's what we'll do. We'll take Select Mask, Rectangle. I'm going to hit left, so we're looking at the direct left part. So now I'm going to mask off all of this area here. So all of that's masked off. So now I'm going to take the gizmo and I'm going to move this part down. And I'm also going to make it a little bit bigger just so it matches. So this is going straight, so it's not going straight here and then just dropping straight off. So that was the only reason I made it a little bit bigger. So now I'm going to go back to Select Mask and I'm going to clear the mask. Okay. So I'm going to take the blob in both eyes and I just want to move it up. So we'll use the gizmo. We'll move it up. All right, perfect. So I gave it a little more space at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and trim. So I'm going to go back to the trim tool, back to rectangle, make sure that I hit left. So I'm just going to trim this new bottom piece. Okay. And then I'm going to take smooth, and then I'm just going to, oh, one thing we should do now is voxel remesh. So we need to recalculate all that stuff that we just did. So let's voxel remesh. 180 is fine. So now I'm just going to smooth out this bottom part. So it looks, so it just looks more natural. Okay, looks good. I'm going to take pinch again, and I'm going to go ahead and pinch this edge. Okay, so now we have a little bit more space on the bottom. All right, so I do want to try something out though. So I'm going to go with the eyes. I'm going to hide both of the eyes. And then I'm just going to add 2 more spheres. Or I'm just going to add 1 sphere, excuse me. So I'm going to move it up. Let's hit front. I'm going to shrink it. With the gizmo, I'm going to hit mirror. So now that sphere that we added is inside of a mirror. And I'm going to label this mirror eyes. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the sphere in the mirror. And I'm going to validate it. So now we have a validated sphere inside this mirror that I've renamed eyes. So I'm going to go to the sphere, separate these, and we're going to move the eyes up. We're going to settle them right in the middle, right there. Because, I just don't know. This might actually look better. Let's look at number 2. It might actually just look better, I don't know. I also feel like the head is a little too small on top. So I'm going to widen the head out a little bit. Another thing you'll notice about when I'm sculpting is I'm constantly making changes. Constantly making changes. Anything that I see that I don't like, I just change. And that's just how it is. Okay, so this looks good. The eyes in comparison to the mouth maybe the eyes are a little too big. So I'm going to go to the eye, use my gizmo and just make it smaller. Something like that. Actually, maybe bigger. If I make this really small. Okay, hey, that's not too bad. So the only difference I'm seeing is that this is a little bit too narrow here. So I have to kind of like widen out the top of the head a little bit. That was the only problem that I was seeing. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So next I want to put these beautiful little, excuse me, like the little bags under the eyes. I really like those. I think I want to use inflate. So I'm going to go to the blob, and I'm just going to use inflate. Here's my intensity, not that big of a brush. And I'm going to do that inflate around the eyes. Still have symmetry on. So I'm just softly like building up. So I'm doing the same sort of inflate movement. I'm just softly like building it up a little bit. And when you take smooth and you smooth it, it's gonna go back down, but it'll look way more natural. Okay, so something like that. And you can even take crease and you can sort of enhance it with the crease tool. Okay, I'm going to use smooth. And actually, I'm a little bit worried if I smooth this out, it'll smooth it out too much. So let's save. And then let's voxel remesh. So I'm going to pull this up. Oh, this is the same. Oops, I actually didn't mean to. So I showed you the voxel remesh up here. 182, maybe like 200 now. And then remesh. It's the same. I might use it down here, but it's the same thing. It's just a shortcut. So I'm going to remesh. And then I'm just going to softly smooth this out. Just make it nice and soft and subtle. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit more. Whoop. Okay. All right. My like OCD is like, oh, this can be straighter, this can be straighter, like the sides of the mouth, but I can't help it. Okay, it's a little better. I can see the bottoms of the eyes. So I'm just going to take trim. I'm going to tap on the eye. And remember, it's really only this eye. It's just in a mirror, so we're seeing both of them. So I'm going to tap on the eye, and I'm going to tap lasso. Lasso is just kind of a freestyle. So I'm just going to lasso that right off, and you don't see it anymore. All right, so let's save. Let's check our layers. Blob. Excuse me, eyes. We have our two cameras. Okay, everything looks good. So now let's do, firstly, there's some gums there. And then I mean, a lot of this is just kind of me making up what I think will work. Oh, and I see some areas here that need to be smoothed. Okay, that's okay. So I want to take what do I want to take? Let's do a torus. Oh, actually, no, let's do a sphere. So let's add a sphere. We can use our gizmo to bring it up. And we can use this bigger orange ring to shrink it. And let's flatten it with this green sphere, or that green node. Actually, it might be better off as a as a torus. Maybe we'll do a torus and a sphere. Maybe that's the answer. So I'm going to bring this down into the mouth. I'm going to move it up. So this is essentially going to be the gums of this character. So I'm going to validate it. I'm going to hit Gizmo and then hit validate. And I'm going to take move. And I'm going to turn the symmetry on for Z as well. Uh-oh. Let me go back here. Let me do local. So I'm doing local so that it's right in the middle of our sphere. So we're using move, and I'm going to press down in the middle. And maybe a little bit off to the sides as well. So something like that. Oh, the only problem is you can see, so I can sort of see the bottom part of the mouth, but that's not, that's an easy fix. We'll just take clay and sub. So instead of adding clay, it'll just take clay away, and I'll just do a few revolutions and it'll bring that down. Okay, so now let's go here. So this is the, let's just name this palette. And let's do add torus. So we added torus, we're going to use the gizmo. And now we can move it up with this arrow and we'll just shrink it. And we kind of want it to be sort of around that sphere that we just made. So here's an example of tools that you can use before you validate. So before you validate the torus and it just becomes a shape, there's these three nodes. So there's this node, which makes it kind of like wider. There's this one, which makes it thicker, more like a donut or less like a donut. And then this, so if you wanted to do like half, you can do that. So that's an example of just some tools that are available. We can make it a little bit thicker. And we can also go back and forth. We can use the gizmo and just make the whole thing a bit smaller if we wanted. But I think this looks good. I'm going to use this green node sphere to kind of do it a little bit like that. And then I want to bring it down to something like that. So that's kind of going to be our gums in a sense. I'm going to go back to the palette and use move. And I'm actually just going to push this down a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to hit save. So let's so we can go to the torus and we can validate it. So now what I want to do is take the palette and the torus and let's just voxel remesh them together. Again, you can do it up here, maybe at like 175. We'll hit remesh. Multi-resolution will be lost. That's okay. So we hit OK. So now these two shapes are joined together. Let's use our smooth tool and just smooth them out. So now we have just one new shape. So we smooth that out a little bit. Let's go into our menu and rename this Gums. Okay, so now we have our gums there. They look great. I don't know why I keep using a Gaelic accent. So I want to take move for this part. Let's check our symmetry. So it's X. That's all we really want. And I just want to push this back and down a little bit. Always. Never can have any peace. Okay, I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit more. Let me go answer the door. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So let's add the teeth. So the teeth are in kind of like a semi-arch. And let's see, what do we think is the best way to achieve that look? I kind of just like making the teeth separate and putting them together. So let's just do it that way. So I'm going to do add, and I'm going to do a sphere. Okay, I'll use my gizmo. I'm going to move it up so you can see it. We'll shrink it. We'll move it up. Actually, we'll leave it out for now. I'm going to validate it. Actually, let's validate it. And I'm going to smush it together a little bit with this blue node. Just kind of smush it together. Okay, so I think I want to use move. Make sure I'm on the tooth. Symmetry is on. That's okay. And I think I want to push the top part to kind of make something like this. Because if I do wind up printing it, I want the bottom to be thicker. So I'm going to make this, pull this out, make it be a little bit longer, but I want to keep the bottom nice and thick so that I can just carve off the bottom if I decide to. And actually, let's do that now. Let's trim the bottom. So we'll just use trim, we'll use rectangle, and we'll trim the bottom of this tooth. I can take move, and I'm actually just gonna, oops, make sure you're on the tooth. And I'm actually gonna straighten this tooth out a bit. I probably should have done this before I trimmed it, but that's okay. We can always trim again. So I want to make it something like that. I like that shape. And I want to take flatten. I want to flatten off this tooth as well. So symmetry is on, so we can just do one side. It should be good. Yeah. So we make a nice tooth like that. And now we can start laying in our teeth. I'll use the gizmo and just stretch it a tad bit. There we go. Okay, so now we have our sphere. This is going to be our tooth. So we want to put this in a mirror. This is the same thing as if I would have pressed mirror earlier. But I like just working on one tooth. And now we have it here. I'm going to put it in a mirror. So I'm going to hit add. And instead of the primitives, I'm going to use one of these repeaters. So there's mirror here. So I'm going to use mirror. So now this tooth is inside the mirror. You can see that's why it's all ugly like that, because that's actually two shapes and they're kind of occupying the same space. So I'm going to go to the mirror, the red repeater. It says mirror now. I'm going to change it to teeth. Okay, so now I'm going to go down to the sphere, which is the actual tooth, and I'm going to separate them like this. So again, we're just concentrating on the one tooth here. We're going to move them in, and we're going to bring them down like this. And now I just have to gauge what they like, their shape and their size. This is maybe a little big, so I'm going to make them smaller. Also, I'm going to bring them closer together like that. And I want them to, you know what? I'm going to take layer, and I think I want a little bit more of this lip part moved back. So I'm just going to take layer, and I'm just going to carve that just to give me a little more room. I'm going to take smooth, and I'll just gently smooth that. Just to give me a little bit more space. So back to the teeth, back to gizmo. And I also want to follow the kind of shape of the mouth. So I'm going to bring them out a little bit, and I'm going to use this green ring to make them, you know, sort of round, sort of like a semicircle. Okay, so now we have these teeth. We'll just name this T for no good reason, for a tooth. So now we can just clone this. So we can clone it right here. So now we have it cloned, so we can just move the clones outside. Now it does take a little time to get used to this, what is it called? The gizmo, but you'll get used to it. You'll definitely get used to it. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn it, and I'm just going to kind of move it so it's a nice semicircle. Like that. I think that looks pretty good. Kind of looks like it's actually bent in a little bit, but I don't know if that really makes a difference. So I'm going to clone that as well. You can just hit clone, and then I'm going to take this red arrow and move it. So we have another tooth back here. And I'm going to use the ring to just make sure everything is in like a nice little line, like the reference. Okay, I love the way that looks. I think it looks great. So now I kind of want to move the palate part, like the gums, I want to move them back a little bit. And I'm going to use drag for this. So make sure that you're on the gums. So I want to use drag, and I love the way the gums kind of go up a little bit. So symmetry is on, so it's going to do it on both sides, and I'm just going to drag this part up. But not just up, I'm going to drag it out a little bit too. I'm going to do it back here as well. So something like that. Maybe I'll just kind of smooth it out a little bit, just to make it a little more natural looking. Perfect, I love it. Okay, I think that looks great. So on the top, it's so funny when my voice does that. So on the top, they look kind of like just more square. I'm just going to take T, and I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to rename this top. Now he only has 2 teeth on the top. I'm going to long press and just bring it on the top of the row. It just feels right. So now I'm going to use my gizmo, and I'm going to move it up. So we're going to turn this into those 2 teeth. So first we need to flip it, and we're just going to use symmetry. So we're just going to go to the symmetry. We're going to go to local, meaning that meaning world, not the whole project, just local to like the teeth that we're working on. And we want to turn the X off, and we want to do Y. So we're dealing with top and bottom instead of left and right. So we want Y. And then we just want to flip object. So this is just going to flip it according to this axis. So we flip it, and now they are pointing down. Okay, so let's move this up, and we're going to have to alter obviously the shape of them. Maybe I'll bend them out a little bit this way, and maybe I'll squeeze them, maybe bring them a little bit closer together. Squeeze them. They look like they might be a little bit smaller. Squeeze them together a bit. So I'm going to drag this top tooth outside of the mirror. So I'm going to long press and bring it outside of the mirror. So remember when we were editing these teeth, we flipped it. So we have to remember that, because that's where things can get a bit confusing. So what we want to do is go back to the symmetry and put it back to X, take it off of green, and also tap world instead of local. So now we want to go to the add, and we want to add its own mirror. So all we did was just set everything back to normal, and we added it in a mirror just like we did with these teeth. So now we're seeing 2. But we want to validate these. So I'm going to tap both of them, and we want to validate, but we want to uninstance. So I tap uninstance, and then I tap yes. So now we have our 2 teeth here, the right one and the left one. So the left one, I think I'm just going to squeeze it down like this, and then move it up. So something like that. And I think that looks pretty good. So this tooth I might stretch because I can kind of see that it wasn't really getting to the bottom of the face. And that's kind of what we want. We want them to both be to the bottom of the face. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I really like that. So it looks like this tooth might be a little further up. I'm going to push it a little bit back and maybe twist it a little bit more. Maybe even separate them. Maybe I'll squish it a little bit tighter. Maybe I'll squish this a little bit tighter. Now it's just the look that I'm going for. I want them to look, I want this to look more straight. So I might have to take flatten on this tooth. And I might have to, let me turn off symmetry. So I'm just flattening the side of this. Literally just flattening the side of the tooth so it looks more straight. So something like that. And of course you can take move if you want it to be really like, you know, if you want to make it really perfect, you can kind of do that. Maybe even smooth it out a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm also going to take move and I'm going to just kind of move the bottom part up there. And I'll grab this one and I just want to move it a little bit closer. Like that. Pull this out a little bit. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, so it looks like I might take, let's see. I'm gonna take drag on this tooth because it looks like there's a little bit of a, looks like the tooth actually goes up a little bit. So it's not so perfect, it almost looks like a chip. So we'll just do that a little bit and make that little bit, that little part of the tooth go up. I think that looks good. And if you want, you can match these shapes. So I might use flatten. Actually, I could probably just use move as well. This tooth is sort of just a little flat here. It's kind of like that. There we go. And you can also take both of them if you want, and you can flatten them both and move them up. I don't know which looks better. I think that looks fine. Okay, nice. So we have that. We have our little bags under the eyes. So the only thing else is the tongue. So I'm going to take move on the gums section. And actually this body, let's just I'm going to flatten this out back here a little bit. Just kind of flatten that and then smooth it. So that's nice and flat. I can take the gum part and just sort of pull it a little bit. So now we have to make this little tongue. So I think the easiest thing to make the tongue is, let's see. We could use the tube tool. I think the tube tool. So we'll use the tube. And we'll use, let's see. We'll use curve. So obviously the tongue flips at the end and then it goes down. And I'm going to guess that the tongue would kind of flip and then get wider at the base. So I'm just going to make a curve up like this and then straight down. So that's going to be the basis for the tongue. Of course, I have to adjust this so it's, you know, how I actually wanted it. It's always like that, so I'm kind of used to it. We'll do front and try to line these up a little bit. I'm not too worried about the tongue being exactly straight because it's just a, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I think that looks pretty good. Now again, the front part really folds down. So something like that. I think that works pretty well. Okay, so now for a fun part. So here's the options for the tube tool. And so here's the radius. So we'll tap radius once. And then there's a little orange node that pops up. So this allows you to have both ends be at different sizes. So the bottom part, if you widen it, then the bottom gets really wide. Oops. Like that, which is actually what I think we want. I'm gonna hit front again, and I'm going to try and straighten this tongue out. Not that it really needs to be straight, but I don't know. For some reason, it just helps me work a little bit better if it's straight. So I'm gonna widen up the tip of the tongue, which means I'm gonna make this wider. So I think that looks pretty good. So we wanna work on the profile because obviously this is too thick. The tongue is flat, so let's tap profile. Okay, we'll tap front again, and now this diagonal, it's in like a 4 section, or it's in like a square section. So we might want to twist it. So let's tap twist in the pink, and let's just twist it so the flat part is on top. Let me hit front again. Okay, so now the flat part is on top. So little by little, we're getting better. So now we want to do with the profile. The profile is like, if we do solo, the profile is like how this looks like in profile, essentially. So we'll hit profile, and we want this to be flat. So if we take a look at this, we're seeing, you know, directly what we're doing with the tongue. Bring this down. So we'll match that, and it looks like we need to bring this up. So we'll bring that up, and it's looking pretty good. And maybe the top is a little thinner, or a little smaller like that. And maybe we'll just make the tongue a little thinner. So I think something like that looks pretty good. I think that works pretty well. I don't think there's a way to, well, you can kind of make it a little bit thicker on the bottom. You can add nodes by just tapping. So we could do something like that. There are some other options that we can do. So we can hit radius again, and then we can control each node. And you can even add nodes if you wanted to. Like you can add another node there. But for example, if I'm looking at this node here, we could pull this to make just that part wider. If we wanted to put another one here, we could do that, and we can make this part wider for the end of the tongue. Kind of like that. We can make the one on the end a little bit smaller, so that's a little bit closer to what we're looking for. Okay, so I think I like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and validate it. I'm gonna save. And now I want to voxel remesh it, because right now the tube is only 778 polygons. That's very small. So if you try to mess with it, it's going to really alter the shape of it. So let's voxel remesh it at like 180 or so. I think that's fine. So we'll just take smooth. We can turn symmetry on, and we can just kind of smooth it. Okay, I think that looks really good. Okay, so I think that looks really nice. So there's some things you can do if you want to kind of switch it up. You can push with the move tool. And you can also reshape it. Now, I don't think the symmetry is actually perfect, unfortunately, because it's the tube tool and not everything is set perfectly, so it sort of works. There is another way that you can change this symmetry line. You can go to symmetry and then go all the way to the bottom, and you can do gizmo edit. So you tap gizmo edit, and then I'm going to take this red arrow and just move it over. And I think that looks pretty symmetrical. So just, you know, if you find that your line is a little too far off, but that's just another little thing that, you know, you don't have to worry too much about. Okay, so now I'm going to use move, and I just want to round this tongue out a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of make it round wherever it's slightly squared off, because I just want the tongue to be round. I think that looks great. Yeah, I think that looks really good. So I do think I might want to make it a little smaller. And I'll bring it down a little bit. It's a bit hard to see. Okay, so the gizmo is a bit off, as you can see. So I'm just going to use align. If you tap align, it's going to take the gizmo. The gizmo's not going to be worried about the mesh that it's attached to. It's just going to align to the project. So this will always be up, this will always be left and right kind of thing. So I'm going to tap align, and that's going to make our tongue a lot easier to just navigate. And you know, I know that it's going down, I know that it's going straight back. So something like that. Okay, I think that looks good. You can always stretch it a little bit if you want to. You could make it a little bit bigger if you think it's too small. Move it back or forth. You know, it's your character, so you can do what you'd like with it. Okay, great. So the only other things that I wanted to do with this little character is he seems like he has some little hairs on him. I think those will be kind of fun to make. So I'm going to do a quick save because I'm pretty happy with it. So let's use the tube tool again. We'll use curve. So there's two here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some of these nodes by just pulling them into themselves. Okay, so there's going to be two here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit radius. That way we get two nodes, and we're going to squeeze them together. Okay, so we have something like that. I guess we could probably make them all a little bit smaller with the gizmo. We can just kind of make them a little smaller. Okay, so this is going to be, we'll rename it to Hairsies. And let's clone. I'm not going to validate yet because I might want to change around the tube settings. So for example, we're going to move that, and I can just go to the tube tool here, and then I can bring this down and kind of like alter it a little bit so it's not the exact same as the other one. I can clone this one and I can move it down. maybe a little further back on the body or something. Whoops. And again, the gizmo takes some getting used to, so take the time that you need, because it is kind of annoying to get used to straight away. Okay, I'm going to clone, so there's a couple up here. And I'm actually going to, oh, I can't. I'm actually going to, we'll just leave it. We'll just spin it manually. I was going to validate it and then flip it with Symmetry, but you can just flip it with the gizmo. Okay, so there's two up there, kind of near his eye. So we'll do that. Maybe we'll stretch it a little bit. Ooh, I just heard my 3D print is just finished. I hope they actually printed. Make it a little smaller. Okay, so there's one there. And we'll clone that. There's another one kind of down here. Maybe we'll make this one, oops. Maybe we'll just put it like on the front, a little more closer to the front of the face. Let's take a look. Okay, so which means that there's a few more down on the bottom. Clone this. And I'm actually going to validate this one. And just kind of, you can use some of the other tools if you really want to, or you just rotate it. But I don't really need them to be that different at this point in time. They're kind of random, so I don't really need that much details with them. So we'll do one there. We'll clone. We'll do another one here. And we'll do another one that we can see, kind of like here. Put it a little more forward. So something like that. And there probably would be more, on the body, but that's okay. Okay, I think this looks great. I'm going to smooth this tooth a little bit here. Okay, so let's do some other little details with the tongue. We can solo it, so we'll hit solo at the bottom. And let's use crease. Let's take Symmetry off. We can use this line to kind of guide us. So I'm going to start here in the middle. And then I'm just going to kind of increase it as it goes. Like so. And then I'll give it a nice soft smooth for the tongue. So I'll take it off solo. So now the tongue has that nice little groove in there. I think it looks great. Okay, so I think lastly for the sculpting part, we'll put these little eyes in. So that shouldn't be too difficult. We might be able to take these eyes. So let's take these eyes. We'll clone the whole thing, clone, and we'll change this eyes to P1, which is just my universal thing for pupils. and we'll go to the sphere, and we'll use our gizmo. So now we're on, remember, we're on the sphere inside this new mirror. So we'll bring this out, shrink, shrink. Eyes are really small. So maybe something like that, maybe even a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna put them a little bit closer together. You always want your eyes a little bit closer together so that they look like they're looking forward. And I think that looks great. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks good. I want to take a look at the body and just see how straight the bottom is. I think I just want to trim the bottom of the body again. So I'm going to make sure I tap on body, trim, rectangle. And I just feel like this needs to be trimmed again. I'm going to voxel remesh it again, just to kind of clean up that bottom. I think that's great. Okay. I think that looks really cute. I like it. And just for fun, if I want to add some, well, let's take these hairs. Let's take all these hairs and validate them. Oh, I wonder if I can make this smaller. No, it looks like I can't. Because it's kind of in the way. Not sure why. So we'll take all these hairsies and I don't really want to join them, I don't think. Huh, I think they're fine. I think they're fine. We can leave them separate. Because I don't know, I might want to do something with them. Like I might want to just take each one and kind of run the smooth over them. You know, or like maybe even like run flatten over them. So sometimes there's little details that you might want to do afterwards. And this is mostly just for the very ends of them, so they're not so sharp. I don't really care that much about it, but okay. And also, maybe we want to do like inflate on the bottom of the tongue. Sometimes, not sometimes, but I feel like tongues have like, you know, kind of like a shape like that. But we don't really need it. It's fine. Oh, what happened to my other teeth? I hope they're just hidden. Oh, they are. Phew. I thought I messed everything up. All right, cool. So this looks good. Let's do a quick little coloring. So now we can change it from Matcap to Lit PBR. Let's move everything. I'm gonna take all of the, I'm gonna get rid of those old eyes. So I'm gonna take everything except for the floor. I'm not gonna select the floor. Everything else, I just wanna move down. So it's, whoop. Tilting it, not moving it. Okay, put that down on the floor. Good. I can take this other eye and delete it. teeth. Oh, these are the top teeth. Just join them together and rename it Top Teeth. Okay, this tube is the tongue. So now I'm just renaming everything. So you can just rename, you know, whatever you might have to rename. I think everything else is good. Okay, so let's use here for the paint. Just tap this little sphere down here, and I like to use like a sort of brownish color. So I usually like to bring this color wheel down here, almost like a terracotta-ish color, something like that. So that's usually the color I use, but I'm actually going to change everything to be that color. So all the teeth, even the floor, I just go back to this color and just do paint all, as long as everything is selected. That looks great. We can go to our second view. Okay, so I'll update the second view so it's in the middle of the screen. All right, so now what I like to do is, if you have my environment, if you don't have my environment, you can get it from Gumroad. Just go to my website, georgevideo.com. It's only $1. But if not, you can just use one of these the free environments, but I always use mine. But we want to turn the environment off for now. And then we want to tap light. So this is our key light. So let's tap the little pencil and name it key. So that's our key light. It doesn't matter where this light goes because the type of light that it is sun, but we're just going to name it key. Key is just like the key light means the main light. Like if you were sitting in front of a window, then essentially, and like there was only sun coming in, like that would be the key light. That's the light that's giving you the most light at that time. So this looks good. So we can go up here to intensity and we can just turn it up. I'm going to turn it up to probably around 2. All right. And we can clone this. So we'll clone this light and we'll call this one rim. We'll make this a rim light. So let's move it. And again, it doesn't really matter where this light is, but I like to put it sort of where the light is going to point. So right now, the sunlight is pointing this way. It's pointing that way. So we're just going to move it. Do it with my finger. And all we want is a nice edge, that nice rim light right there. There we go. So you just move it around until you get that nice bright pop of light. That's what we want. We can even raise the intensity a little bit. So that's exactly what we want, that really nice bright white next to that shadow. It's perfect. Okay, so let's add another light. So for this light, we'll move it back over here. And let's try to point this one just to the side of our character. Something like that. And actually, maybe we'll switch it up. So right now it's a sunlight. Let's change it to spot. So now it's a spotlight. So I'm going to move it and I'm going to point this cone towards the side of his face. See it? Move it up. I'm going to take this orange node and pull it back. It's going to make that cone wider. And you can do it closer, but we'll do it a little bit further away. Maybe a little more in front of his face. But let's go to the view. So we'll go back to number 2. So that way we can see, exactly what the light is doing. So I think that looks nice. And then last but not least, let's clone this light. I don't even know what to name this one. Let's just name it L1. So let's clone it and name this one L2. This would normally be the top down light. I usually name it TD. Sometimes I like to switch it up. So as you see, I'm just moving this light right over top of him or her, whatever this blob would like to be. I'll move it up. Maybe I'll narrow the beam a little bit. I think it want it right in the front. So right in the front, pointing a little bit down. Maybe I want it a little bit further front and just aimed a little bit more at those eyes. Okay, so something like that I think is good. I think that works. So let's go to our view so we can really take a look. I need to make this smaller so I can see the lights. I'm just going to add this as another view, and I'm going to call it 3. So now let's go to post-process and turn that on. And if yours is blurry, if it gets blurry, then immediately go down and turn off depth of field. And I'm going to use one of my own little selections here. Actually, I'm not going to use it. I'll walk you through what I'm choosing. So I have these on. Right now I have it here. I'll put this up to 2 before we like render it, meaning before we export the image. But for now, it's okay to leave that down there. I have reflection on. I have global illumination on to 10. This deals with like shadows and stuff like inside. You know, if you make them really high, the shadows get really dark inside. We don't really need it that dark inside, but you can adjust these and just play with them and you'll kind of figure out what they do. Curvature bias, okay, that's okay. We can leave depth of field off, but if you do want to turn it on, then you just tap on a certain part and that'll come into focus. And then of course you can change how blurry it is, you know, all that good stuff. I'll turn it off for now. Bloom deals with how light shines. So if you don't have bloom, then there's going to be less shine. But if I had something glowing or really bright light, it would be a lot of you know, it would bring a lot of like white kind of glare to it. You can't really see it now, but that's what bloom is essentially. Tone mapping, turn it on or off. I have mine so it's a little bit darker, a little bit richer. You can play around with it, but just probably just shouldn't even worry about it for now. Color grading, mine doesn't really need to be color graded. I don't even know why that's on. Probably don't even need that either. I'm gonna turn that off. Anti-aliasing and dithering, I think those are on by default, so I just left them on. Okay, so yeah, this looks really good. So another thing that we have to do, I want to change the blob, the main blob. Well, let's save. We made a lot of progress. Let's save. So the main blob, we're in the materials tab. We want to change it to subsurface. And I'm going to change this to 0.1. Probably do the same thing with all the teeth. So we have the teeth, we have all these teeth. Did it not select all the teeth? Okay, all the teeth, materials, subsurface, and we'll change the depth like we did before. Maybe we'll make it to like 0.7 or so. I'm not sure if I want to change all of them, although I do like the way subsurface looks. The lower you bring the depth, the harder it is for it to be like see-through, but it's very organic. So that's one of the reasons why I really like turning things subsurface, because then they really look organic, and that's what I like. Okay, so these look good. Skin is good. I think the eyes might be okay. I don't think I need to do the eyes. Okay, so also let's go back to the shading with the lights and stuff. Let's turn back on the environment. It's going to be very bright, so we'll just need to turn this down like so. Yours might vary. You might have to turn it down a little more. let's go to our view. Okay, that looks good. Oh, actually, I love the way it looks. I'm going to tap view so I can look at it. I'm going to get rid of these lights icons just so I can see it. I wish I could get rid of this, but I can't. So maybe I'll hit select. No, I don't know how to get rid of that. It's so annoying. What if I hit that? No. Anyway, so I think this looks really good. Next, we can just color it. We can match these colors. You can use your own colors. So the floor, actually, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to do save as. So I'm going to save as new, and this is going to be color. Because I might come back and print this, and if I'm going to print it, then I don't want to. Then I can just leave it like it is now. Okay, so this is the color version. So the eyes are a little bit yellowish. Let's join the eyes. Let's validate. Yes. Oops. Oops, let's go back. Validate and join children. Okay, so now we have the eyes. I'm going to bring those up. The teeth, validate, join children. P1. I'm going to leave those. I'm going to leave P1. Teeth, top teeth. We can join them both. So we'll bring it up. And now we have the teeth. I'll just rename it teeth. Okay. All the hairs are good. We have the floor. So the floor, you know, I'll stick with the assignment and make the floor white. And so for his skin, let's move this. Let's drag this over here. So for the skin, it's like the lighter blue. It's almost like a bluish green. So it's kind of like this color. It's a little bit. So I feel it's about that color on top. So I'm going to paint it that color. And it's a little bit darker on the bottom. So I'm going to go here and add a layer. So I'm going to add the layer. And this is going to be bluish. So now we have this new layer here, which is great because we can take, I guess, yeah, we can just use paint, I suppose. We can use paint, and I'm going to tap on this color, and then I'm going to make it a little bit darker, but a little bit bluer, I think. Something like that. And you know what? An easy way to do, I'm just going to hit front. I'm going to hit select mask with rectangle, and I'm going to mask the whole top part. So now that that's masked, I'm just going to tap on the paint and paint all. And then once you clear the mask, now you see that that middle part is painted. Okay, so let's take the smooth tool, tap it, clone it, and when you clone it, it's going to end up on the bottom. And all you have to do is turn the intensity all the way down. I'm going to turn mine back up, but you should be on the one down here and turn your intensity all the way down, tap it again, and then hit save. So that's the same thing as Smoothie Poo. That's all that this tool is. It's just the smooth tool with 0 intensity. So with that, hopefully we can smooth this. If not, I have a few other tricks up my sleeve. Oh, it looks like it smooths a little bit. Okay, so it looks like it smooths a little bit, but not really as much as we need. So Oh, and actually, now that I'm looking, this is a bit glossy. I probably could have made this more matte, but that's all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back down to base and we're going to decimate it. So we're going to remove polygons from this shape. So you go here, miscellaneous, and then decimate. We'll do 1 and 2. So now let's see if it smooths any better. Not really. Okay, so let's try smudge. We'll try smudge tool. And what happens if we, ooh, you know what? I was on the base. I want to be on bluish. Let's try that again. Ooh, it does smooth a lot better. It smooths a lot better. So I want to take paint. We're still on that bluer color. I'm going to lower the intensity, make the brush kind of big, and I'm just going to softly kind of bring up that gradient. The inside of the mouth is going to be painted, so I'm not too worried about that. Oh, maybe that's a little too high. I think that's good. So now I'm going to smooth all of this out, including everything that we just painted. It looks a little light here, so I'm going to go ahead and add some paint there and then smooth it out. All right, I think that looks good. Take smudge maybe and just smudge a little bit if it's lighter in some spots, but I'm kind of crazy about those kind of details, so just, you know, smooth it until it looks good. You can't always depend on me because I'll literally have you watching videos until the sun comes up because I'm just like, I'm crazy about those kind of details. I just want a nice soft gradient. That's what I want. That's all I want. I'd be so happy if they did an update and I can just have a nice soft gradient. I think that's beautiful. I love it. Let's save first off. So the teeth and the eyes are kind of like the same color. So they're sort of like a white, but a little off. So I think that's a good color, but we want to make it a little more shiny, a little more glossy. So we'll paint that. The eyes, we might be able to just do the same thing, to be honest with you. The same color. I think that works. And then these, the pupils are, they look kind of black, right? I think they look back, maybe they're like a brown. And really glossy, maybe super glossy. Oh, I love it. So the tongue is pink. So we'll go to red and then we'll go to a pinkish color. Even it's a little bit of a purplish pink. And I don't think I needed that shiny, so we'll add a little roughness to it. The gums are a little bit more red. So they may be around there. Okay. Might need some gums up front though. You know what? I'm gonna drag this gum. We need some gums up here. That feels better to me. Okay, so now, next we'll go to the body. We'll add a new layer And we'll name it Inside Mouth. Okay, so now we just want to do a little bit of a darker kind of fuchsia purple. So we'll just try to match that color. Feels about there. So remember, we're on this inside mouth layer, and now we'll go to paint. I want to make sure I turn the intensity all the way up, and we will color this in. Make sure it's not going through the back. Oh, it is a little bit. So I'm gonna go into the options here, this little paintbrush, and I'm gonna go to filter, and I'm just gonna check front facing vertices only. And I'm gonna go back here and hit erase, and I'm gonna erase that came through. Take it off of erase, and then I'm just gonna color this. Oh, it's still going through. so annoying. Sometimes the application is just undefeated. It does what it wants to do. Okay, so it's a little messy, but I think it's pretty much there. So let's go to erase, and then just kind of erase these. It's still going through. That's so odd. I only have one symmetry. I'm going to go back to the options in paint and just uncheck it, because I don't know why that happens sometimes, but as you can see, it just happens sometimes. So let's erase this. We'll kind of just erase along that lip. Okay, so now I'm going to make the radius of my brush pretty small so I can get more of these details. Oh, make sure that you're not on erase, just so I can get it very close to the side of the mouth. And I'm just trying to do this part really smooth. I want to make sure I get it in front of the teeth. Okay, just make sure I go on the inside. You can even solo it too. Well, actually that doesn't really help. Okay, just nice clean lines. Okay, so now that I have that kind of where I want it, I do want to clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to do DIN Topo, Dynamic Topology. I'm going to enable it. So basically what this allows you to do is it'll add geometry as the tool is working. So it'll make these lines just a bit clearer as we paint. Okay, so I made some really smooth lines. You can clean them up on the top as well. Okay, that looks good. So I'm pretty happy with that. And if you want to, you know, I might feel that it's a little too much. I can always take it off like that. Yeah, that might look a little bit better. I think I might have had it a little too much forward. But that looks great. That looks really good. All right, so let's save. And I'm going to tap perspective now. And obviously you can change the perspective. Maybe I'll put it to like 15 or so. Okay, something like that is sort of where the art is. And then I'm just gonna just adjust a little bit, different things. Maybe I want to make the tongue a little smaller. Or a little thinner. Gums are a little shiny, so I'm going to go to my paint and grab the eyedropper, grab this color, go back to the paint, and I can just kind of up the roughness a little bit. And same thing with this, you know, I wish I would have done both. The paint a little bit less glossy. For example, I'll go to the base and I'll do the same thing where I grab the eyedropper and I grab this color, and then I go back to the color and I just make it a little more rough. It's a little glossy at the bottom, but I don't really mind that too bad. All right. And then there's always these little details that I do that will kind of make it my own. So one thing that I want to do is go to, so if I'm on the body, is go to inside mouth, grab the inside of the mouth color. And I should have made that darker as well. I'm going to make it darker and way more rough. I don't want any kind of gloss. And then I'm just going to paint. Oh, you can turn dynamic typology off. So just go up here and turn it off by here so you can disable it. Make sure you're not on erase. And I'm going to make it a little darker here where the tongue is and the gums. And then I'll take Smoothie Poo and just kind of smooth that out. So that for sure. And I kind of do that for most of the shapes. So for example, the teeth, I'm going to put this back over here where I'm used to it. So I'll grab the color of the teeth, make them a little bit darker, add a layer, and I'm just going to call it darker. So I just selected the teeth, added a new layer, then I can go to paint, and I'm just going to paint this darker color along the bottom of the teeth and a little bit up the sides. I'll do the same thing on top. And then I'll take Smoothie Poo, make it a little smaller, and then just smooth it out. Hopefully it smooths okay. It's kind of hard to see on the top teeth, but we'll be able to see on the bottom teeth. Yeah, that smooths nicely. Yeah, that looks great. So we add that little shadow into the teeth. I'll do the same thing to the eyes. I'll add a layer, name it darker, and then just do the same thing. I'll take paint and kind of just go along the bottom part of the eyes, you know, wherever they make like contact with anything. And then just take Smoothie Poo and smooth it out. And if you think it's a little bit too dark, you can always go to the layer. You can always go to the layer and you can lower the opacity of the layer as well. Okay, so now we have these little thingies, which I don't know what color these should be. I mean, they could be like this color because there's like a, no, I don't really like that. definitely want them rough with like no gloss. Black might be too black though. Maybe like a darker desaturated purple might work. I don't mind that too much. Let's see, bluish inside mouth. The only thing that bugs me about inside mouth is I made it a little glossy. I don't like these glossy pops, so that's a bit annoying. But to rectify that, I'm going to grab this color, actually make it matte, and just go for it. Because it bugs me too much. I'll have to do the darker part again, but I think I'm okay with that. I don't like the inside of the mouths to be glossy at all. Okay, so I think that's better. I don't really see any glossiness anymore. So I'm going to take this, I'll go darker, maybe a little bit more reddish. And then I'll just paint. And I'll use Smoothie Poo and just kind of smooth that out. So it kind of gives the illusion of, you know, gives the illusion. So let's do the same thing with the tongue. Let's grab the color. Since we're here, I mean, we might as well just hang out. We'll make it a little darker, and we'll paint around the base of the tongue. Ooh, I guess Symmetry isn't on. Maybe even a little darker than that. Paint along the base of the tongue, Smoothie Poo. Oh no, that didn't smooth at all, did it? If that's the case, I'm just going to decimate, miscellaneous, decimate, decimate. Should smooth a bit more now. There we go. Don't play with me. I'm going to solo it so I can actually see what's going on. Paint it a little more back here. Solo is a super useful tool. Paint it there. Smooth it out. This is when I use smudge to kind of like make it a little more smooth. Sometimes smudge comes in handy. And I think what do I want to do down here? I think I'll take this color and just go darker with it. And you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to decimate it once. And you know what? I will use a layer. I'm not going to be lazy. So I'll use a layer. And I'll kind of just make this darker in here. Maybe even a little bit more darker. Like that. Maybe even just leave it like that. I could always do a little bit next to the teeth, maybe. And then do Smoothie Poo. Okay, so at least that's all like, oh yeah, I don't mind, I don't know. Let's tap smudge and kind of get rid of it a little bit. I think that's a little bit better. I don't mind that. The teeth, the darker, I think I want to get a little bit darker than this on the top. Just a little bit darker up there. bit hard to see because of the shadows. Oh, wait a minute. It looks too dark now. I think I was too overzealous. Maybe just like a small line. And then smoothie poo. There we go. That's all I wanted. Just a little bit darker towards the base of the teeth. Okay. Cool. All right, I'm pretty happy with him. I'm going to change the background. Maybe I'll change the background to white. Let's go to our view. Feels like a little, like he's not wide enough at the bottom. I love it though. Okay, so we'll go to our view, and I think that's it. I think it looks pretty good. It's a pretty good match. Post-process, I'm going to turn it all the way up. Maybe I'll put on a little depth of field. Tap on the teeth, maybe. Get rid of the reference image. And yeah, I think that's good. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed making this little character. I think he came out really, really nicely. And let me know what you think. This was kind of a crash course, but it's just, you know what it is I thought this was going to be a more simple character, but you really have to do really, really simple characters. So if this was too much for you, I'll do a more simple crash course. But maybe this is a crash course for people that have done the crash course and they're just ready for something else, because I definitely know that you guys can handle it. And I love all the feedback. I love that you guys are digging the crash courses. So I'm going to do a lot more. Shout out to Character Cube. Make sure you go check them out. I actually don't really, I follow so many artists, and you don't really know if they're, what their nationality is, what their gender is, or, you really don't know anything about them. For me, all I know is, and I don't really care about that stuff. Like, if you're just post cool content, things that inspire me, then I'm a fan. I could care less about all the less important stuff. I'd love to see what you guys are doing as well, so be sure to tag me. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm gonna bring this guy over into Blender, and yeah, probably just mess around some more with him. You know how I do. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth with Nomad Sculpt, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.